Hello, I'm Semeria, and the person that I chose to do my biology role model project on was Jazmine Benjamin. Jazmine Benjamin is a biomedical science PhD candidate in the Division of Nephrology at the University of Alabama at Birmingham in Birmingham, Alabama. Her research is focused on the relationship between circadian misalignment and risk factors for cardiovascular disease. Her ultimate career goal is a position that allows her to utilize her technical knowledge and penchant for advocacy in order to benefit underserved communities. Jazmine recently finished her second term as the president of the graduate student body at UAB. She was also a community member on a variety of task forces dedicated to keeping the population at UAB safe and operational during the COVID-19 outbreak. In 2019, Jazmine co-founded the Science Policy and Advocacy Initiative, the first comprehensive science policy group in the state of Alabama. In addition to her work on campus, Jazmine is also a graduate fellow for the Alabama chapter of the Scholar Strategy Network and a member of the National Science Policy Network. Outside of the lab, Jazmine loves to cook, read, learn, listen to music and podcasts, and play video games. She also has an adopted Sproly named Surzy, who keeps her laughing and active. Jazmine is a staunch advocate for representation in STEM and often uses her platform to share her experiences and mentor young students and graduate student colleagues. However, as a kid, she's always been curious. She's always wanted to research answers to her questions in books or the internet before even asking her parents. She loved taking things apart and figuring out how they worked. However, she doesn't think she's always been destined to work in science when she was younger. At first, she wanted to be an astronaut, then a veterinarian, then a fashion and interior designer, interestingly. She's a really creative person, but also loves helping others. She didn't realize that she loved and wanted a career in science until her sophomore year of college. And after that, she was all in. So for research, right now she's currently studying the effects of circadian dysfunction via food availability and light on risk factors for cardiovascular disease. So her doctoral thesis project is focused on the effects of the food availability and lighting on the kidney, one of many end organs damaged by risk factors for cardiovascular disease. So the reason I say I kind of relate to Jazmine, it's just nice to have someone who also wants to get into like the science field and having someone who looks like you do, because the STEM field is majority like white men and women, and there's not a lot of people who look like me. So finding someone who, I can have like shares the same representation of me is very nice. And, that she advocates for that type of like diversity in the STEM field. So that's just another good thing. And we both kind of like share a same like interest in children, and she also mentors young children, and I kind of do the same thing right now, so that's also nice. And as kids, I'd say we're both pretty curious about like what we wanted to do. So that's another reason that I look up to her. So a quote that I found that she just talked about that I kind of relate to. She said the most important thing that she's learned is that she has to advocate for herself. I've learned that if I'm not keeping my goals and best interests in mind, I can't fault others for doing the same. Speaking up and asking for experiences or opportunities has been endlessly valuable for me this far in my career. I relate to this because how else are you gonna get far if you don't ask questions and if you're not vulnerable? So I think I can really relate to this, and I think this is just great advice that anybody could benefit from. So a paper that she recently is working on goes hand in hand with the research that she is doing right now. And basically it's going back to her research. It's chronic circadian disruption contributes to the excess aldosterone production and loss of diurnal electrolyte excretion. So she's one of 6 authors on this paper. It was published May 13th, 2022, and it just basically sums up and goes over the research she has been doing. So basically, to sum up paper, disruptions in circadian rhythms contribute to a number of cardiometabolic health risks, including kidney disease. While chronic circadian disruption has been recognized as a health risk in a number of other organ systems, they don't understand the effects of CCD on kidney function and sodium handling factors. Individuals with CCDs, such as rotating shift workers, have an increased incidence of kidney and cardiovascular disease, including impaired sodium excretion patterns. So, like, they hypothesize that this is impaired sodium excretion is due in part to increased activation of the renin aldosterone and angiotensin system. So they recently observed that CCD interrupts blood pressure, heart rate, and activity rhythms. So they took a male 8-week-old mice and it was placed under either a normal 12-12 light/dark cycle protocol or a 10-10 light/dark cycle protocol, each with ad libitum food and water for 12 weeks. And they basically did that, and then in the end they were able to find out their results from their experiment showed that CCD disrupts diurnal sodium handling, at least in part by disruptions in the RAAS. They further proposed that the loss of blood pressure rhythms may be due to hyperaldosteronism in CCD mice. So, yeah. And then these were just my references that I also talked about. But going back to just a little bit about her and like what she wants to kind of do in the future. She wants to utilize her professional training and advocacy experience to provide value in the science policy space. Scientists in policy-making positions are uniquely positioned to use their specific expertise and their other soft skills learned during their training to influence initiative policies such as those relating to research, education, healthcare, and the environment. And her experiences as a biomedical researcher focusing on diabetes and passion for STEM education reform will be an asset to lawmakers who lack experience and familiarity with disparities in STEM and education workers. So, yeah, and that's it about my person. Thank you.